Well, for those who are watching live, we're not going to let AI destroy your brand. That's the good news. Actually, if you're watching this recorded, we're not going to let AI destroy your brand. If you're watching the future, because we're going to give you the hints and the tips and how to solve this craziness that we're going through at the speed of light, very similarly to probably the creation of AOL when that jumped into the landscape and when the internet was created. Now, for some reason, like that. Here we go. I'm back. So here's the game plan for today. I'm going to talk through some notes. As I talk through these, wherever you're watching, feel free to use the commenting feature. If you want me to do some live searches on your brand, I'm happy to do it. Consider this the free consulting hour. For anybody that wants that, I'll do it live. So comment if you want me to do that as we go. Maybe hear what I'm going to say first before you put your brand up for that. So I'll talk through it. And I promise you, I will give you clear takeaways, things that you need to start thinking about as it relates to AI discoveries. So this coffee and analytics is called AI Will Destroy Your Franchise. Learn how to avoid it. And the reason I'm saying AI will destroy your franchise is because what AI is doing is it's allowing search to exist outside of your voice. And so what's happening now is businesses, not just franchisors, businesses are losing control of the narrative, and partly because machine learning is dictating that narrative. Brokers in yesterday's world are owning that narrative. PR and content and social used to be the ways that you owned your narrative. And so here comes AI, where a lot of people, a majority of human beings, are now using it as a form of the way that they search for things to have understanding of the story that's being told. So AI is transforming nearly everything: how we accomplish tasks, how we vent, go on there and say, I'm having an issue with my coworker, how we learn and how we solve problems. But one of the most underestimated shifts is how franchise candidates discover, evaluate, and ultimately choose the franchise opportunity. And this is the uncomfortable truth. In the olden days, I say pre-2015, but it seems like that tends to be about the year that I go back to on most things. Everything was 10 years ago. But in the olden days, pre-2015, franchise candidates had a limited way to find franchise opportunities. They would go on franchise portals, they attended franchise expos, they would read industry media, and that exposure introduced brands and opportunities back to those candidates. And candidates were largely on their own. They would find a brand on a portal, they might click apply, they go into the website, and quite often those turn into cold leads or tire kickers very fast, and we dismiss them as franchise buyers. And so there was a shift that happening. I would say 2008, pre-2008, portals were magical, expos were magical, PR was magical, PR was lead generation. Now it's more lead awareness. And now flash forward between 2008 and 2025, we have the true birth of two main things, which is social content. There's no LinkedIn, there's no brand pages in between or before 2008. Now there are, and now AI has been built. Native content has been created. Social advertising has been created. So all these new things have been created, yet most of us lean back to pre-2008 and we know what it was looking like. So now obviously everything has changed. So my gut says that candidates actually moved faster back in the day. I don't have the data, and they were moving faster because they were more sophisticated, but because they weren't. Most didn't know how to read an FDD. So what did they do? They filled out a form, they got into the franchise, and they talked to the franchisor. They didn't know how to properly compare brands. They were like, ooh, I love this burger, I'm going to buy this burger brand. They didn't understand the depth, incentives, or mechanics of the broker network. So decisions happened with less friction, fewer inputs, and far less analyst paralysis. And then came the brokers. And the brokers totally changed the game. So if we were to draw out a path and say, well, what are the disruptions? The brokers came in. Franchise brokers has already existed. Frannet and FranChoice and others were doing a pretty solid job at educating franchise buyers and playing that coach component. They had a steady flow of candidates who needed coaching and structure and an extra push to get over the finish line. Therefore, if I were going to buy a franchise, I would land with a franchise broker back then. And then the model exploded. What happened is, if we look at franchise portals, leads coming down here, franchisors are in this panic mode and said, we need leads. And so now the brokers move that shift. This is the explosion. So independent brokers enter the market, and many of them were built to sell. These brokers entering the market were built to sell. Candidates were told that they would be coached for free, and that brokers had placed thousands of franchisees. I've seen the ads like, we've placed 5,000 franchise owners, or we've sold 5,000. You have not sold franchises. The franchisor sells a franchise. Let's just be careful on that. What often wasn't clearly disclosed was how brokers were getting paid and how the compensation was coming as a part of these recommendations. Unlike real estate, where commissions are universally understood, brokers, the bad ones, say, who pays me the highest? It's my job to convince the buyer to buy whoever pays me the highest commission. Versus real estate, it's pretty cut and dry. You know, about 20% down on purchasing the home. And so very easily to understand what you can and can't afford. And therefore, the pathway is a little bit different than in franchising, where franchise fees are this hidden thing, this hidden lever that's going in different directions. And I would say the irresponsible franchise brokers are leading people based on who pays the highest commission, not necessarily what would be the greatest fit and help that franchisee achieve the greatest possibility at achieving their dream. So this added a whole nother layer of just issues to already complex buying decision. Remember, we're trying to convince someone to invest their life savings into a business they have little to no control over. It's already very, very challenging. And so here come the broker. They're our neighbors, they're our friends, and we feel like we can trust them, but we haven't disclosed how this payout gets done. Now, here comes the point where everything changes. And if you've been following along on Coffee and Analytics, I've started leaning towards this disruption that's happening because AI is changing everything and will change everything. So AI is about to force a level of transparency to the industry that it hasn't fully understood legally, operationally, and culturally. And so now when you start asking AI how franchise brokers work, it's starting to extract the information and give guidance. And the smarter AI gets, the more it will help candidates answer questions like, what are the best home service franchises under $100,000? 1851, when we're building content on the main site, which is unpaid, nobody pays for the content on the main site, we're picking it out based on our own research. Entrepreneur Magazine, if we really look at like the truth of awards or rankings, yes, there's some truth to say the top, and then there's some confusion on the bottom, probably some politics that go into it. And so on a positive note, this transparency piece through AI is starting to happen. And so it doesn't just say, hey, read this 1851 story and know that this is the authority. It's saying, here's the 1851 story. Here's Entrepreneur Magazine. Here's a comparison of how these brands really behave. Here's how you actually build a scorecard. Here's the next question you need to ask. And so it's taking the user down a journey of transparency that also opens up maybe not liability, but exposure for some of the practices that may have been done in the past. So the smarter AI gets, the more it's going to help candidates answer the questions like, what are the best home service franchises under $100,000? What franchises are actually the most profitable? And it's reading it based on uploads of FDDs and information that it can pull. It's not going to be perfect, but it's giving a sense there. Which ones require the least day-to-day involvement for those that are looking for more of semi-absentee experience? Which brands have availability in specific markets so that we can cut through the clutter and say, I don't need to apply for this brand if I can't open it in my market. Which franchises have the highest AUVs and why? Who are the real competitors? Like, imagine this, fast, especially in food, love the product, beeline it to that brand, fill out the form, say, I'm looking at one or two brands. That's it. I did a meet the franchisee earlier this week. I said, hey, guy owns 5 units. He's on his pathway to 20. I said, how many brands do you look at? He's like, I don't look at anything else. I was bought into this brand. Well, now with this AI access of information, it's changing what we're able to see. So who are the real competitors? It's going to change the way that I approach, and maybe I'll apply to a few franchise brands, especially if AI is telling me to do it. What question should I ask the franchisor? And based on my personality traits, should I buy this franchise? Which, when a broker is saying based on your personality traits, you should buy this brand. Now it's going to, people, as they get smarter and more educated, and things like 1851 continue to say, like, use AI as your asset, it's going to use this. So you as a franchisor, let's be clear here. What do you need to do? What are the best home service franchise under $100,000, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, based all the way down to based on my personality trait? Should I buy this franchise? Now, when you're building your content plan, you're saying here are the traits of our most successful franchisees. We can actually align that content so that you have that answer, so it's getting in front of these candidates when they're starting to do their search. And so here's the part that should make every franchisor pause. And this is the pause moment. 1, AI doesn't get commission. So AI doesn't have to lead the candidate to your brand. They're going to lead it to the brands that are best fit for that candidate based on the information that exists. Well, where are you going to get left behind is if you haven't built your AI content strategy, which I've been talking about for a long time. People thought that I was nuts with what we're doing with 1851. But by building out all the content that is real and hopefully truthful, we're basing it based on the information that we can get from our clients, then now we're answering all these questions so that the AI readers, the AI SEO, can go back and say, okay, we understand the positioning of this business. Does that mean more leads? No, we're going to continue to dive away from the lead game and more into the qualified candidate game. And it's going to teach us a lot about what is the true viability. We're no longer going to be able to look in the sky and say we want 100 deals next year when we did 10 last. It's going to get very more specific. So AI doesn't get a commission. It's not going to lead it to the brand that pays it the most. It doesn't care who pays whom. It doesn't care if you pay the brokers. It doesn't care if you pay 1851. It doesn't care if you buy AI ads. It just doesn't care about that stuff. It doesn't care who's exchanging money. It doesn't benefit from steering candidates one way or another. And its job is really to cut through the BS. And as more machine learning happens, that's going to impact all the BS that exists out there, which should hopefully prevent bad brands from getting growth. As much as they want to grow, it's very simple. And we've talked about this before. What's the vision of the leadership? Is it sound? What's the cost to get in? How much I can make? Arguably number one in this equation. Where are you growing and why are you growing there? Validation, what does it look like? And point of differentiation and product. Like, this is not overly complex on how it's going to continue to read these things, but it's going to index based on authentic content. Well, what's the definition of authentic content? The reality is, I'll share my opinion. I don't know this to only be the truth, but I can share it based on what I'm seeing. Human, real content. You use AI bots to write all your content, your blog content that nobody reads. Good luck. I don't think that's going to be a difference maker. Real authentic content when you're filming videos or discussions with your franchisees, when you're talking to them about the buying process, when you're highlighting the people in your company and you're taking those videos, transcribing it and turning it into written content that optimizes back to AI, that's what's going to help cut through the BS of this. So where does this leave your brand? This is the moment where the spotlight turns back on you. So it's been such a reactive environment, SEO for your websites, proactive ads on Google, Facebook, and LinkedIn. But now the spotlight is turning. It's coming back to you. And the question becomes, are you doing the basics? Are you clearly answering these questions anywhere? And anywhere could be on your website. It doesn't have to be on a third-party site. It could be on an 1851. It could be in your PR story as the PR plan gets created. Are we doing PR with purpose that goes back to our mission of making sure that we're building content that is going to answer the future searches, the AI bots, the things that people are going to use to answer this? Are you building this out? I hope people watch this in the future and come back and say, all right, he was correct on these things. This is the movement that's happening. But the question comes, you as your brand, are you doing the basics? Now, the scary part of the basics is this has to find a line item on the budget. Go back to 2008. What is our budget? Our budget was really simple. Website, one and done. PR was definitely prevalent as the driver. Like, let's go get press, because the cost of getting third-party validation in another publication that highlights our franchise is much cheaper than us buying ads. So that was probably number 2. Number 3 was shows. Like, it was absolutely a part of the mission. But now think of the homework that a buyer can do going into that show. Well, what does it do for a show? It actually makes the buyers more qualified because they're not in just the learning stage. They've actually thought about franchising. What does it also do? If there's a lot of buyers in that audience, it will require them to try to figure out, how do I cut through all of that, all those opportunities. And then the franchise portals, that was the other part of the mix. The portals were part of the budget. It was very much lead generation. Now, flash forward, we have ads, we have social, we have AI, we have content, we have SEO. SEO wasn't even that big at that point. It was more of a new invention of how do you play with the algorithm. Consultancy, PR, like the drumbeat is so much that it becomes expensive. And unfortunately, most brands, and it's a leadership mindset shift, but most brands don't know how to properly budget for franchise growth. And so that money gets spread very, very, very quickly. And so now I'm talking about, well, where does this leave your brand? And it's turning the spotlight back to you, and you got to start doing the basics. Well, this is going to cost money. Now, you can integrate it back into things that you already do, like your drip campaigns, make this content universal, your brochures, your content that you use in the sales process. Like, it could be universally used, but you got to put it to work to make sure that it's being done. So, are you doing the basics? Here they are. Are you clearly answering these questions anywhere? Yes or no? Do you have a structured, searchable FAQ on your website? This is going to be more important in the future because you're going to want to have the FAQs so that it integrates back into AI. Is your content actually readable and understandable by AI? That's an important part. And are you shaping the answers, or are you letting others shape them for you? This is the getting the quotes from your franchisees, letting someone else be the story. This is the basics of reporting or PR. It's still going to be a part of that mission. So are you shaping the answers, or are you letting others shape the answers for you? Because whether or not you like it, candidates are already asking AI these questions. They're asking the question that I went through, which is, what are the top brands in the category? What are the most profitable franchise brands? Which require the least day-to-day or fit into the lifestyle? Which brands have the availability in my specific market? Which franchises have the highest AUVs and why? Who are the real competitors? What questions should I ask franchisors? And based on my personality traits, does this franchise make sense for me? Why do I know this? I know it for 2 reasons. 1, because I can look at the analytics of what people are searching for that get them into 1851, and I can ask AI, what are the questions that people are asking? And I take the 2 of them, I line them together, and I figure out what is this algorithm that we need. And now what is that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pieces of content that we need to make sure that we are getting there. So what franchisors need to understand about AI-driven discovery right now, it's changing. How are we going to lift our brand? We're going to make sure we have that content, the tactical ways to structure our content, and where our brands or competitors already beating you at this. Now, let's see if I can share this without freezing my screen. This is a presentation that Charles, Nicola, and I were supposed to do at the Let's Grow conference, which was great. If you haven't gone to Let's Grow, another valuable conference for engaging with people and networking. This is the presentation that we did there a few weeks ago. Again, if any of you want me to do some live searches with your brand, feel free to use that commenting feature. Let me show you a few things. So 1, let's start talking about basics. And this is going to be a transformation that we're doing on websites. But right here, do Good Spark Greatness. Good Spark is a franchise development and consulting company helping entrepreneurs franchise their business, launch smarter franchise systems, and scale quicker. The reason this is here is so that Gemini and ChatGPT can all see what is Good Spark. Plus, we're using keywords here to make sure that Good Spark goes at the front of this. Same thing we're doing with FranCamp, and now the same thing that we're rolling out in the way that we're using the footer on websites. You can also see, if you want to look at the Good Spark franchise site, you can just see how we've categorized each of these sections, again, to be AI ready, and it's working. It's actually driving business. which is exactly the roadmap that we're trying to create to influence and give you guys the tools to do it as well. Let me give you guys some insights here. I have 10 minutes left. Again, if anybody has questions or comments, please put it in the chat. Okay, so AI is now the first franchise broker. Before a human ever finds you, a machine decides if you exist. Get this in your head. Really think about this note. It is invaluable to obviously the story that we're trying to create for you. So the old funnel, we talked about this past. They go to a trade show, they visit the business, portal, broker, website, etc. Today, they go on AI and visit the business and research. It's still the other stuff is a part of that journey. It's just has evolved the way that it's doing. So if AI doesn't understand you, you are filtered out. Think about that. What is your current standing as a brand? If you're doing content, great, you're already ahead, and you can go on ChatGPT. You'll see 1851 is often referenced as the resource. Now, where are we winning on that? We're also being very specific and calling out sponsored content versus not, so that AI understands what is truth-telling content and what has been paid for. It doesn't mean that it's not truthful. It just means that someone has exchanged a fee in exchange for this content. So understand if AI doesn't understand you, you're being filtered out. So we have to answer the questions that AI is now doing. And this is going to continue to progress. What I say today is probably going to be vastly different at the end of 2026. How AI actually finds a franchise business, your website language. I just showed you the bottom on the Good Spark page, FAQs and comparison pages, video transcripts. It's not just the video. Make sure that the transcripts are rich. Blog content, PR and podcasts. The schema is the way that the website is structured and the metadata. And reviews and third-party mentions. And so it does not crawl, it learns patterns is the key note here. And so if I'm looking at this, how do we make sure that this creates a roadmap? You're engaging for one piece of content a month. It's not a bad thing. It just means now let's go ahead and work through all of these different channels to make sure we're hitting each of those marks. So AI does three things. It classifies your brand. And again, like it's learning what your brand is. It compares you to alternatives and it predicts the buyer fit. And so we need to get in front of this so that our content is actually training the answer of that data. AI is constantly answering what is this franchise, who is it for, and why is it better than others? Take a screen grab of this if you haven't already. We need to make sure this is consistent in two places. One, our content, and also in our sales process. Framework for clarifying and building your brand story. What's our purpose? Does our website answer this? What is the opportunity we're offering to franchisees and how is it different? What is the transformation your franchisee buys into your system? What is the transformation they are going to go through? The opportunity of profile of franchise investments, ROI potential versus the estimated investment, legacy building versus lifestyle, and you can see how it moves in different directions. It's important to know how you fit. Your brand story equals your AI positioning model. Again, things that you guys can just screen grab if you want or watch back this video. I want to get to this part so that you can see this before I let you go in the next 7 minutes. 1, define your category. Stop positioning as a low-cost handyman franchise. Instead, talk about recurring home maintenance franchise for aging homeowners. Be very specific of how you're defining it. The territory scalable home service platform for owner-operators. The maintenance as a subscription home service brand. Far too often I go to a franchise website and says, buy my franchise. It's not going to work for you anymore. And it's going to become even more important as these AI readers start reading the way that your content works. AI ranks categories, not logos. Create one dominant framing sentence that you can repeat everywhere. Brand X is a blank category for a specific customer built for the economic advantage. So this gives you a framework that you want to do. And then down in that bottom right corner, you can see where this has to go so that we can build the consistency to make sure that we are answering the questions of the AI searches. Engineer your entity graph. AI pulls brand meaning from how often your name is co-mentioned with category keywords, competitive brands, market outcomes, market problems and outcomes. Easy PR strategy here. This is getting you into that narrative. Obviously, the content that you own is a part of it. Your website is a part of it. Your socials are part of it. Your videos are a part of it. But here, if we're looking at how do we own a PR strategy, now at the front end of building out what is our PR plan when we're talking about category keywords, we're actually shooting for the media to want to cover those things to have impact. how you engineer this entity, publish 10 to 20 articles, use phrases like, we talked about that, and then syndicate, get these articles referenced, which is the whole point of PR. So it's interesting how PR is coming back to this. I don't think PR is lead generation. It's lead awareness. It's a part of the research funnel. It lends credibility. And if we do it the right way, it can impact the way AI is looking at it. 3, create training style content. AI prefers explanations, definitions, publish these things. Take a screen grab of this. This becomes AI reference material, not marketing. Remember, we're trying to make sure that the basics and the fundamentals are done so we don't get disrupted and our competition lifts higher than us in the way that we're doing our storytelling. Build trust signals outside of your website, podcast, founder interviews, industry articles. Again, the value of PR as it goes back to this, as learning across the consistency of your story. I've used this example many times, especially when I'm talking to prospective clients. Dos Equis, I'm very happy that Dos Equis has brought back the most interesting man in the world because it's been a part of my proposals for years. But the consistency with Dos Equis was they were relatively unknown. They humanized the brand through the power of humans, the most interesting man in the world. And then all they did is take all the areas that they were already spending money and distribute that message on a consistent basis so that it's getting out there. That's a part of the magic of making sure that you're leveraging all the areas that you have distribution. Add one sentence to your footer. I showed you that at the beginning of this. Why it works, just more, again, patterns for you guys to know. Brands with structured narrative, data become the AI default. Everybody else disappears. Everybody else disappears. Get that through your head. If you start doing this now, and it doesn't have to be done overnight, you want consistency. And so you don't want to invest into this and have it fall off. You want consistency, but make everyone else disappear. That should be a North Star. If you want to go on the Good Spark page, you can see how this starts getting put together. This is for Ty at Preservin and how these stories start working. And distribution is training. Every asset trains AI. Your website, your YouTube, your blogs, your PR, your case studies, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Repeat it and get the structure going. And so here's your action items. One, have you built your compelling brand story? 2, ask A about your brand. Should I buy insert brand? You'll know exactly what it's saying about you, so you can start building your counter narrative and laying out the strategy to get in front of it. Build your AI narrative so you have that and then broadcast it outbound. So that's some of those action points. Let me put this question up for Nick. In the context of AI and SEO, how important is it to cluster your content on your website? So Nick, if I'm hearing it right, the cluster, is it like, should it be on long form pages? It doesn't have to be clustered, but you want, right at current stage, and this could change, you can see long form is coming back into play. It went short form for a long period. That FAQ page, I think, is essential, making sure that that's a cluster of content. And then organizing the bottom so it's very, very simple. Like if I were going to build the website of tomorrow, I would take those questions that I put at the beginning and say, all right, let's put those in the footer, attached to content that has a video and us answering that question. Like that's going to be a part of the foundation that exists today. Again, like these kind of things can change. But I hope that answers your question. If it doesn't, certainly reach out. And lastly, I'll put the screen up. If you haven't registered for FranCamp or been to FranCamp before, this is going to be a big focus of the next one. And we're going to use this as the foundation to actually help brands walk away from FranCamp with a roadmap and content that is created in real time in Jersey. It's coming up in June. We do have limited seats because of the venue. So I encourage you to register for that. And so by now, AI has read this, evaluated me, gave me a letter grade. Hopefully you have too. I'm hopeful that I've helped you in this journey on Another Coffee and Analytics. Reach out with questions. Happy to help you. If you were afraid to put your brand on there, a brand had me do a few brands had me do a live one in Dallas a few weeks ago, and it's fascinating to see it because we don't always love what is out there, but it gives us a pathway to go win. Do not be the brand that gets destroyed by AI. Be the brand that leads to the top and makes everybody else disappear.